We are going to move on to
Oh man.
um, something that has a whole lot of meat on it, man. So, uh, singer Billie Eilish, she's a real popular singer now. Admittedly, I do not know much about her music. I know who she is, don't know much about her music, but I do know she's really, really popular. And she was recently on the Howard Stern show, and she talked about how watching porn at an early age wrecked her brain, quote unquote. Now, this to me is a big deal, and I'll explain why once we play what she had to say. Because I think that it is very, very, I think her comments are telling in terms of where we are going as a society. But she made these comments last week on the Howard Stern show. So we'll go ahead. There's no video. Well, there's probably video somewhere, but I'm not trying to get hit with no copyright. And Howard Stern show is a big deal. So we have the audio. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to play the audio of what she had to say. And then we're going to talk about it on the back end. So you can go ahead and hit that.
All right, cool.
But anyway, I I was an advocate, and thought I was one of the guys, and would talk about it, and think it was really cool for not having a problem with it, and not seeing why it was bad, and I think it really destroyed my brain, and I feel incredibly devastated that I was exposed to so much porn. I think that I had like sleep paralysis and these like almost like night terrors / just nightmares because of it. I think that's how they started, because I would just watch abusive, BDSM, and
Oh, dude.
that's what I thought was attractive, and I just didn't. It got to a point where I couldn't watch anything else, like unless it was violent. I didn't think it was attractive, and I was a virgin. I'd never done anything, and so it led to problems where the first few times I had sex, I was not saying no to things that were not good, and it's because I thought that that's what I was supposed to be attracted to, and I'm so angry that porn is so loved, and I'm so angry at myself for thinking that it was okay, and it just is. The way that like vaginas look in porn is fucking crazy. No vaginas look like that.
Okay. We hit the 3-minute mark. My bad. I was still listening. I'm like, oh
No,
man,
yeah, that's all
this
good.
shit.
Yeah.
Wow. What's she
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah. So this to me, and there's an ongoing thing with me about how I feel about this kind of stuff. I'm just gonna start. There's a deep. I'm gonna try and be as concise as possible with my takeaway from what she had to say, because it represents a larger problem, in my opinion, than people being sort of just merely addicted to porn, right?
Mhm.
So we talk often about how the state of modern relationships are in peril, right? So we've talked about that.
Mhm.
Now, the state of relationships are in peril for two reasons. One of those reasons are they're sort of at the head of one of those reasons. You have women who are responsible for the behavior, and at the head of the other reason, you have men who are responsible for the behavior. Now, let's start with the head that women are responsible for, because that's less relevant to this particular topic, but still we need to provide context either way. So women are responsible for the current state of women are responsible today for relationships being in a state of peril, because they have become so highly specialized with respect to who they make themselves available to, that they are disqualifying such a large percentage of men who would otherwise not be disqualified by them. They're living their lives through the prism of the internet and social media. They live these fantasy worlds where they believe that they're entitled to a certain caliber of man and lifestyle that represents a very small percentage of what's actually out there, that it disqualifies them from being in good relationships with a large percentage of guys who can provide for them, just not at the fantastical level that they want to be provided for. So I call it the inflation. I call it hypergamy, but the inflation version. Hypergamy has been inflated in the modern day sense. Hypergamy has always existed in ancient civilizations, in previous generations. The strongest, fittest, smartest men who could provide were the ones who got to procreate and reproduce. This is nothing new. Hypergamy has always existed. But in previous generations, hypergamy meant that I am a woman who wants to be with a guy who is good with his hands, who's masculine, who's smart and intelligent, who makes good financial decisions, and who's stable and makes good money. We can provide a good life for ourselves if I am able to get a guy who does that. In previous generations, that is what hypergamy was. That has evolved into the current modern form of hypergamy, which is I need a guy who is 6'4", who makes $300,000 a year, who can take me to the mall and drop thousands of dollars on me on Birkin bags and red bottoms, and then put me on a private jet and fly me halfway across the world, because these are the things that I hear in my music and see on social media. So that is what I want now in my relationship, because it must be so plentiful. There must be so much of it out there. That is what I want for myself. So, the pendulum of the practice of hypergamy has swung in such an extreme direction that it is causing this absence of functional relationships that are occurring, because you have such a large percentage of women who are excluding a majority of the percentage of men who could be providers for them, but their perception of what providing means has just taken on an entirely new form. So on the women's end, that's what we're dealing with. But what's most important, what I took away from Billie Eilish's comments, is what is happening on the men's end, where Billie Eilish talks about porn wrecking her brain. The difference between porn wrecking her brain and porn wrecking the brain of a man are two completely different things. And here's what I mean by that. So Billie Eilish can have her brain wrecked by porn, but she still stands the chance of being able to obtain relationships and sexual relationships, because by the merit of her being a woman, all she has to do is exist, and she can still be approached, accosted, asked out, DM'd, whatever the case may be, by men who are interested in her. Therefore, she still stands the chance of being able to find herself in a relationship, and therefore the success of that on her end merely boils down to her being able to sort of work her way through whatever mental hangups she may have as a result of the fact that she watched porn in the way that she did for as long as she did. Now, as a guy, it's a completely different story. Guys who end up on this stuff, they experience, you talk about wrecking the brain. Guys who spend such an inordinate amount of time being consuming this type of content, especially at an early age, we reach the point where there's a such thing, in my opinion, as social atrophy. So atrophy in and of itself is a term that means it essentially means you lose it if you don't use it. So, a basic example of atrophy is if I grow up and if I'm born and I never learn how to use my left hand, as I get older and I never learn how to use my right hand essentially becomes like a limp part of my body. You might as well cut it off, because my brain never developed the necessary neurons and all the various mental faculties that are needed in order for you to be able to make use of your right hand. If you never had to use your right hand as a baby, as a toddler, in the adolescence, when you get older, you might as well cut the hand off, because there's no use for it to you. Social atrophy is the same thing as that, but the social version of it. If as a young kid and as a young man, you're growing up and your and your perception of women and sex and all of that kind of stuff is porn, combined with the fact that you're not developing the necessary social skills to actually be successful with women in person, because you think that the way that your approach to women should be is that through DMing women on the internet and social media and messaging them on these apps, but not actually engaging in person-to-person communication. When you combine these elements, you're now dealing with entire generations of men who are growing up with social atrophy, not gaining the practical skills necessary to be able to communicate with women face to face, in person, in an effective way that lend themselves to you being able to get into relationships and actually have sex with these people. So what we have, and the thing about this to me that's scary is this affects not just this doesn't affect just the young people, bro. Our generation is caught up in this as well. It's millennials, it's Gen Zers, and all of these other generations that are below us who are saying, I don't actually have to go out into the world and try and develop the skills necessary to meet women in my own right. I am just going to relegate myself to subscribing to OnlyFans pages, DMing women on Instagram, messaging them on Snapchat, and trying to get their attention on TikTok. You're phasing yourself out because the men who do have the practical skills, though they might be in the minority because the opposite is growing in sort of prevalence, they're going to have the greatest chances possible to actually be able to procreate. And do you know what's not happening when you spend your nights on OnlyFans and Instagram and Pornhub? There's something that's not taking place when you're doing these things. Women getting pregnant. Women aren't getting pregnant when you're spending your nights doing this stuff. And it isn't even just about women getting pregnant, because we don't want a bunch of babies being born into dysfunctional situations. But as a man, your goal should be, how can I actually get into a physical space with this woman so that I can actually physically have sex with her? Not just this overabundance of these guys who are developing social atrophy by spending inordinate amounts of time donating their hard-earned dollars to some random chick's OnlyFans page who doesn't give any two shits about them. So this type of stuff scares me because, as I've said before in the past, I think we're staring down the barrel of, number one, involuntary celibacy, and number two, voluntary infertility. Involuntary celibacy because you have a lot of guys who are trying to figure out the best possible way for them to be able to interact with women, but are simply being disqualified from doing so because you have so many women who are practicing hypergamy, if you will. And then on the other hand, you have guys who are practicing voluntary infertility because you are knowingly recusing yourself from the possibility of actually being able to create a legacy, actually being able to have sex with women, actually being able to put yourself in a physical space to communicate and be in relationships with women at a digestible pace. Mm-hmm. And there's this movie out there called Children of Men. It's an old movie. It came out in, I think, 2006. And it's based off a book. And in this movie, it depicts a dystopian future where basically the world is coming to an end because of worldwide infertility. People have lost the ability to procreate and have children. I think it was because of a pandemic or a virus. Something took place that basically made the human race incapable of reproducing. I think that we are slowly headed in that direction. And as we continue to rely more and more on things like social media to meet each other and OnlyFans, because you got these guys who don't care. They'll spend hundreds if not thousands of dollars on OnlyFans a year. The more that we continue to do this, the more and more we are going to stare down the barrel of voluntary infertility until at some point we, birth ourselves out of existence. That's what I call it. And it's no wonder why we have this issue of all of the women only being sexually active with like 10 to 30% of the men. In other words, at the most you have 30% of the men who are having all the sex with 100% of the women. That's because that other 70% of men is either involuntary celibate for reasons that are beyond their control, or because they are just sort of recusing themselves from having actual sexual activity because they'd rather just spend money subscribing to OnlyFans. And I don't give a shit what anybody says. DMing chicks on Instagram, messaging them on Snapchat is not as effective when it comes to meeting them as having good social skills and having confidence in yourself to be able to procure these relationships and these interactions on an in-person basis, by hook or by crook, whatever the case may be. It's just this situation is becoming more and more perverse as the days and the years and the months pass. But whereas Billie Eilish can say porn wrecked my brain, she still stands the chance of being successful in relationships because by the merit of her existence as a woman, she'll still get approached by guys who are learning how to do it the way of I have adequate social skills, as opposed to these guys who go down the same road as Billie Eilish. Women aren't going to just approach you. You're still going to have to do what you need to do in order to be able to acquire these relationships. And the more that you numb yourself into lack of activity because you're doing all of this new age technological stuff where you're doing OnlyFans and all of this weirdo stuff, the less likely you're going to be able to gain an opportunity to be able to do that for yourself. And look, man, I'm not here to be the guy who's trying to bash porn and all of that kind of stuff. We all have our vices. There's nothing wrong with porn in healthy doses. I'm not trying to say porn is overall a bad thing. I don't think that. But what we're seeing here is we got these kids who are saying, they're not developing those basic fundamental skills at the age in which they need to be developing them, bro. And instead, it's being replaced by OnlyFans subscriptions. That can't be a good thing. I don't care what anybody says. No one is going to be able to argue to me that that is actually a positive. So the more and more that we sort of mainstream these various forms of content and media, the worse off we're going to be as a society, because we are essentially, as far as I can tell, going to birth ourselves out of existence. It is either going to be that or we are going to accept westernized polygamy, because at a certain point it's going to be one man to every 10 women, and that's how we're going to accept this thing. So it's either one or the other, so take your pick. But that was what I took away from what Billie Eilish had to say. She is, as much as she can acknowledge how bad it was on her psyche, with in terms of how she kind of got into this whole thing with the whole porn watching stuff, she needs to be thankful that she nevertheless still had the opportunity to have boyfriends and relationships and have sex, because the same can't be said for a guy who has dozens of OnlyFans subscriptions and is constantly liking and swiping right and commenting on photos and videos on Instagram, trying to get women's attention on social media and the internet.
Agreed. I say it's a lot. It's a lot with this one, and I say, to touch on her point, I would say that it is impressive for her to be aware of her addiction at such a young age, uh, being 20 years old and being aware of the impact that pornography has had on her life at such a young age is impressive to me. For her to talk about it at that angle is impressive. Because you will run into people who are twice her age and been watching it twice as long that are going to justify that filth, right? So pornography is one of those things. To me, it is a vice. It is something akin to. It's not going to overtly kill you like cigarettes will. All right, but it'll take your life force in other ways. Um, so I think it's more of a spiritual situation where if you watch that stuff unfiltered, it will throw you off and you won't be as balanced as you need to be to deal with life because you want some other shit sexually.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just not centered, and you're going to find yourself engaging in activities that are like how she was saying, basically, like, hey, she was doing sex acts and stuff like that well, she thought was normal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, that's not normal. Like, people don't do that.
Yeah.
And so she's her story is wild in the sense that she went straight to BDSM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I don't know if that's some 50 Shades of Grey exposure, or that she just thought it was just normal. Like, okay, there's just genres of sex. So I'm just getting the BDSM. That's just like rock, right? It's like, no, it's
Yeah.
not. It's
Yeah.
not. BDSM is not that. And so BDSM is extreme stuff. To me, it's I'm not going to use the R word, all right, but it's akin to me, it's a simulated unwanted sexualization.
Mm-hmm.
It was perfected. BDSM was perfected in unwanted sexualization. So, in its essence, uh, as a sexual form, it is that was birthed in deviance and depravity. And so for her to be introduced out the gate on that, that's what I'm saying. It's like, wow, your mind must be wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
You're literally starting on 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like, there's some stuff that's a little bit wilder than that. All right. And that's, but you're starting out of 9 out of 10. And so no wonder, honestly, no wonder she got burnt out so fast. Is
Yeah.
this thing,
But it's good. It's good that she did get burned out instead of traversing down the rabbit hole of just getting into even weirder things,
Yeah,
because your fix is no longer, because you
yeah,
no longer get your fix from the regular BDSM. So it's like, now I got to go even weirder. I got to
yeah.
go even more perverse because this is no longer doing it for me.
So here's where we're at as a culture and a society. So right now, what we're living in is, honestly, man, I'm gonna say it, and I don't care. People who watch pornography are exposed, and people who watch it for an extended period of time. I don't know the threshold on that. All right,
Mm-hmm.
but if they've watched it for an extended period of time, all right, they are introducing themselves into sexual deviancies.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what goes on these porn sites? Because, well, I visit them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when you're on those websites, who are they marketing to for some of these videos? You'll see some of these gifts or some of these ads that they're showing. Who are they marketing to?
Right.
They're marketing to kids.
Mm-hmm.
And some kid who came home from school, or stepmom, or some other stuff going on. Where it's video games, it's real kid stuff. And I'm like, hey, I get it. Kids have access to the internet, and they're going to find these websites, right? And these adult websites are grooming these children,
Yeah.
because these are future customers,
Yeah.
and they're grooming them into the lifestyle. And so what's going on is that pornography is an industry of entertainment.
It is. Yep.
It is nothing's real there.
Mm-hmm.
So so are there professional women having sex? Yeah, there's professional women having sex, but it's entertainment. And so it's no different than WWE. Are those professional athletes who can get injured? Did some of them die wrestling? Yes. But is it entertainment though? You'll see the old heads now talk about their how it's entertainment, and how sometimes the entertainment got took too far or what have you. And so these ladies are entertainers. This is not real sex. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing about none of this exchange that's real.
Mm-hmm.
And so for somebody that's not even putting that in the filter, you're getting yourself in trouble. You're already getting in trouble by watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And then so if you don't have a filter to say, hey, this is not reality, you're getting in trouble. Because then you're going to hit the streets looking for this.
Yes. Yep.
So now there's a thing where, well, hell, everybody's doing group sex. Let me just do group sex. That looks like fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, you telling me I can fuck one girl? oh, excuse my French. I have sex with one girl, look over, and then have sex with a whole nother girl, have sex with a whole nother girl, and it's like, oh yeah, big whoop. It's a party, right? It's a sex party. I grew up, hey, what's the big deal? I was in the locker room. I could see other guys' penis. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm not having sex with him.
Right.
I'm having sex with the girl.
Or are you?
Hey, there's nothing gay. Nothing gay going on here.
Yeah.
I see it in the flicks all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
hey, let's both have sex with her.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, what are you doing? Yeah, come on, man. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? It's not a high five, bro. This is sex. I'm not doing that. Right? But I'm gonna tell you, bro, it happened more or less in our generation.
Yeah, yes, I believe that's when it started. Yeah.
It started in ours.
Yeah.
It was still real tabooish for my brother's generation. But for ours, it was, hey man, don't you watch it? Everybody watches it.
Yeah.
And this was in middle school.
Yeah.
Hey, don't you watch it, bro? Everybody watches it.
Yep.
And so at this point, and that was tame stuff. That was Cinemax. That was dry humping.
Mm-hmm.
That was nothing. That's not what these kids are watching now.
Mm-hmm.
So for her to be watching this, for her to watch this and say that she got into the extreme stuff, that to me is scary, because eventually it normally is an incline, but now it's so popularized. Now it's so the norm. I mean, I remember being on Instagram and stuff like that. I was like, Facebook. I was like, this is porn.
Yeah.
At Twitter, this is porn on here.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? What? It's a meme. That's not a meme. This is sex.
Yeah.
What is it? So these kids were exposed to this stuff. So honestly, she was born, I had to look it up. She was born in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
She said she was 11. So that means 2012.
Yeah.
I can concur with that.
Yeah.
I can say, oh yeah, 2012 smartphones, internets, all these websites, Pornhub and all that stuff was out then.
Yeah.
So she had access to it. She's one of those kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was like, hey man, yeah, but I didn't just start off on, oh, okay. Oh, no, I got into it. I started looking at the extreme pain stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she was in all of the vomit and all that stuff too. Why not?
Yeah.
The slapping, the punching.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that wild stuff. And so it's just like, hey, look, that's not normal. And so I brought up the websites and stuff is because they're pushing these abnormal ways of sex as norms.
Mm-hmm.
These are not normal practices for sex at all. All right. I didn't say positions.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say locations. I'm talking, so you can do different positions and you can have sex outside the bedroom. So you can have spice and all this other stuff and still have a good old lifestyle.
Right.
But as soon as you start introducing other people into it, all the time, as soon as you start introducing, toys in areas for men.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this, bro?
Yeah.
Wade talking about how he loves, I don't know if Wade said that or Gabrielle said it or who said what Wade does with things. But he enjoys anal stimulation. I don't know how Mario knows that. But Dwayne Wade loves anal stimulation.
I believe he did say that. Wade is kind of, yeah.
No, listen. Wade is in our generation. He's a few years older, but he's from our cohort.
He is, yeah.
He's exposed to the same type of shenanigans. And so, but now my whole thing is that my problem with pornography is what I see it doing to the population. And people doing abnormal sex acts as the norm. Mm-hmm. And just like her situation, people are introduced to level 7 as soon as they get started.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is advanced stuff. Like regular people don't watch this. The only people that watch this stuff are into other stuff that you don't want to be in.
That you don't want to even know about. Yeah.
You don't even want to know about these things. You're starting off on the wrong stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so that's my problem with these sites, because honestly, that seems to be what they're pushing. and they're just pushing deviancy. So there's two things going on here. There's the thing that there's the angle you're talking about where these guys are just staying in the house and not engaging with women like you're supposed to. Hey, look,
Mm-hmm.
you're a man, bro. It's like sparring. You're
Yeah.
supposed to be out there doing that all the
Mm-hmm.
time. If you don't use it, you will lose it.
Yeah.
So you constantly, as man, have to be doing that. All right. And DMs don't count. Texts don't count.
They don't. No.
So
They
get in
don't.
the field, bro, and get
Yeah.
dirty.
They
Yeah.
don't.
So there's that angle going on. And I completely agree with that. And then I will also say there's the other angle where it is having, for people that are having sex, that people are being active, they're having the wrong kinds of sex now. They're doing the wrong stuff. This is not regular stuff. I'm talking about everything new is not regular. Bro, if I am on there, I'm watching old stuff. It's like music. I'm watching
Mm-hmm.
old stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
stuff that made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what y'all doing, but this ain't it.
Yeah.
Y'all doing everything under the
Yeah.
sun.
Well, just look at the just the themes of it. Like
Yeah.
some of the stuff is so prevalent now, like the weird stuff where they come up with these scenarios where it's the brother and the sister or the
Yeah,
mom and the
that.
son.
Yeah.
So like all we have so much of this content out here that is kind of subconsciously trying to
Thank
suggest
you.
that like
Thank
incest
you.
is a normal sexual
Thank you.
is a normal sexual desire or a
Thank
normal
you.
sexual sort of inclination.
It's not.
Like, yeah, it's insanity. But the thing is, like, we used to talk often about. So, like, I remember when because it's funny you bring up music. I remember coming up listening to music, and we come from the hip hop generation, so we used to listen to the music, and as we got older and started to become more self-aware, we started to realize, like, okay, I'm a kid who grew up like middle class, lower middle class. I'm listening to this hip hop stuff. I'm not selling dope. I'm not shooting. I'm not gang banging. I'm not going to prison. I'm not doing all of the stuff that these guys are talking about in this music. Yet I still listen to the music. Why? None of the actual direct messaging resonates with me. And what we realized is what we're trying to do, or at least what we're doing when we are listening to this music, is it's like in our brains we sort of have a mental filter, and our filter sort of allows the stuff that does resonate with us to sort of creep into our psyche, but
Right.
then it filters out the pollution that doesn't resonate with us. So while we can listen to the music and not be influenced into shooting and gangbanging and drug dealing and doing all of the crazy stuff that they're talking about. But what we can internalize is aggressiveness, seeking opportunity, going for what's yours, and doing and sort of persevering through challenges. Those are all things that are inherent in the music too. So we're able to kind of separate those two things internally. When it comes to this porn stuff, it's like what we used to be able to do based on the way that it used to be with the older stuff, as you like to say, the normal stuff, was sort of acknowledge that this is entertainment, but peel away from it some of the constructive aspects of it that could be useful, right? Useful being a word, like, technique and things like that, right?
That's a
You know what I'm
dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but what's happening now is there's no more. The filter is gone, because if you're like as a human being, your brain is not developing at the normal rate that it's supposed to. So you're missing the phase in which you're learning how to develop your filter. When you're being introduced to this stuff at 9, 10 years old, and like you
Exactly.
said, you're being introduced to it at level 7, you
Yeah.
don't have the filter.
Yeah.
So you're at the mercy of the material, and the
Yeah.
material is telling you this is normal life.
Yeah.
And that shit is dangerous. Not only it's dangerous in terms of the normalization of sex acts, as you put it, but it's also dangerous in terms of where we are as a society as we continue to get more and more perverse with this stuff. We are now fully entrenched in what is now at least 2 to 3 generations of what I perceive to be men who are simply not developing the adequate social skills to be able to continue the legacy, to be able to keep the thing going. It's gonna be completely normal to find more and more 40, 50, 60-year-old guys who are just childless.
Yeah.
Not because they chose to be, but because they never developed the skills necessary to actually get with a woman to reproduce.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? And when we talk about the chaotic state of modern relationships, this is a part of it.
No, it's a part
Because
of it.
yeah, this is a part of it, because number one, you can't go into a relationship thinking that this is what is something that you should expect. Number two, you're not even trying to get a relationship. You're not even trying to secure the relationship, period, anyway, because your relationship is your phone and your tablet. And so when you're not actually trying to obtain these relationships physically, because you're just left with sort of your OnlyFans subscriptions, the combination of these two things is creating an environment in which less and less people are having sex, less and less people are in relationships, therefore less and less people are getting married, less and less kids are being born. This is what we're dealing with here.
It's I agree. And so here's how it goes, right? Older women. So when I say older women, I'm talking our age. So 30 plus.
Yeah.
They're not doing certain sex acts where bodily fluids are going towards their face. They're not doing that. Hell, they're giving you hassle for giving you head.
Yeah.
It's hassle for that. Like,
it's
you have
conditional,
you have to file paperwork so you can get some of that. So that's for 30 plus, but that's always been a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But not for the younger ones. So for the younger ones, that's what they've been seeing since they were kids. So they think that's normal. So they do it. So my nephew, he's 23. The stories he tells me, I'm like, y'all do what? Yeah. And she did that. I said, she does that? I'm like, bro, I haven't found that yet. I'm 30, I'm 35, 36. Yeah, y'all just doing it like that? Yeah, it's normal. Which, you're not doing that? Like, no, I'm not doing that, bro. Like, women my age, they still think that's disrespectful. So that's not part of the sex act for us. That's me being disrespectful towards her. So I don't know what I gotta do. I don't know how many bills I gotta pay to do that and not have no problems. Okay. So these younger kids are just doing it as the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a reflection of how pornography is normalizing certain sex acts.
Mm-hmm.
And so with what's going on now with the fluentness of sexuality and stuff like that, these porn barriers, they're right there on it. They've always been on it. It's sex. And so even with the older stuff, you sit there and you're watching it when the man's climax and they're showing the man climax. I don't want to see this guy. What kind of crap is that? I'm watching this for the woman. Why do I have to see him grunting for 10 seconds?
Yeah.
And
I don't even want him to talk. Yeah.
They be all in the camera.
Yeah.
All in the
They
video.
need to start the show.
Yeah, like, bro, you are not the star here. Get out of the way. You know what I'm saying? But so even then, even with the older stuff, it had its issues. It had its issues. And so relative adjusting for time, that shit was weird for back then.
Yeah.
But I was too young to understand that shit was weird. And so when I'm coming up and I'm talking to these girls and I'm getting to know them and they telling me about their old situations and they're excited about how I do things. It's not because I'm some mandingo wild warrior, man. It's just because I'm regular.
Yeah.
And then guys that they used to deal with, they were super quick. They were either super quick or they what was the thing they would do? Oh, they would want to watch porn while they're doing it. Mm-hmm. They would want to do the stuff that was in porn, like be too aggressive while getting head. Bro, this is not a gag factor, whatever you're watching. Yeah. This is a normal girl.
Yeah.
She's normal. And she's doing this because she likes you.
Yeah.
Don't try to choke her to death.
Yeah.
And so when I'm hearing these stories, it's like, oh shit, I don't do none of that. Like, I'm regular. Like, I get that you're a human and I get that that's entertainment. So I'm not going to be out here top turnbuckle figure four-ing somebody because I saw, you know what I'm saying, Chris Benoit. That's a bad picture. I see,
Jeff Hardy.
Jeff Hardy. You know what I'm saying? Goddamn Hulk Hogan doing it. And I'm like, oh, all
Chris
right.
Benoit.
Chris Benoit, bad example.
Way back.
Oh,
Way
because
back.
Chris, hey,
Yeah.
we're on the topic. Hell, because you're watching egregious people do egregious things, and you're
Yeah.
watching it like that's normal. Hey, man, if you can't watch that in the airport, then you shouldn't be watching that. You know, and this is another thing too, by the way, with that stuff. If you can't do it in the open, should you be doing it when nobody else is around type of thing? Like, where's your personal integrity type of thing? And this is the things that I would ask myself too when I'm in those dirty corners. All right, so I ain't above this, but this is one of those things where it's just like, look, man, this is how you know this is an act that's not shouldn't be crowned as something that's cool. Like, there's natural inherent shame on it. That's why you blast your music and you listen to the porn low.
Yeah.
I've seen memes of that, and that's people's life. So there is a natural inherent shame in doing such a thing, because you know in the back of your mind subconsciously that you should be getting the real thing and not doing this.
Yes.
And so,
Yeah.
to speak to what you're saying, those kids aren't that are just getting introduced to this lifestyle, and 11-year-old kid, and OnlyFans is what their uncles is watching. It's what dad laughs at with his friends. And so when I get older, I'm gonna pay for it too. Everybody's doing it. What's the big deal?
It's
And
terrible.
so if it's not OnlyFans, it's gonna be the next entity after that. And
Sure.
the metaverse, bro, there's gonna be all kinds of, if it's so if Facebook is too PG for it, they're going to have a sex metaverse for sure. All right, Pornhub better be working on that now. They will be making, so people don't do memberships. They'll do
Yeah.
memberships for that. They'll join for that, and presently there will be those people. We've seen it in movies, right? Where there's some hologram humping a guy or
Oh
something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah,
what I'm talking about.
yeah,
That is precisely what I'm talking about when I say voluntary infertility. That's what I'm
yeah,
talking about.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
when you're getting your rocks off to these simulations, do you know what's not happening?
Exactly.
Actual pregnancies. Like
Mm-hmm.
so it's just I find it all frightening. And the one thing that I will sort of push back to you on is, you mentioned that you're watching these sex acts when you know in the back of your mind you should be actually doing it. I think when it comes to younger generations, it's gotten so beyond the pale. And we talk about that lack of a filter. I think we're getting to
Yeah,
the point where
yeah.
they're not even going to realize I shouldn't be doing it this way. I should be
No,
doing
that's
it the
fair.
actual
That's
way.
fair.
They're not
That's
even going to know. It's
that's
going to
fair.
be, this is the way. You mean you're not watching your stuff? You don't have. I have a friend.
No, you're
Okay.
right. Go ahead. Go ahead. I
Yeah.
got
And
story
so
too.
I have a friend. I have a friend who works at a bank.
Yeah.
Okay, she does a lot of different things, but when she started out working there, she works at a credit union rather, not a bank. But when she started out, she did direct customer service interface, and she worked the virtual teller and all of that stuff. She said that it was very common for her to be working on a work day, and somebody will come either inside or to the virtual teller, and they'll try to talk to her about how some kind of fraudulent activity took place on their account. And when she pulls up their account, there will be all of these OnlyFans charges. OnlyFans here, OnlyFans there, Pornhub there, all of these porn charges. And these individuals feel shame, obviously, because they're acting as though they don't know where it came from. Bro, ain't nobody hack your account. You paid for this stuff. Ain't nobody do nothing to your account. You paid for this. That's why there's no fraudulent transaction. You subscribe to those pages.
What happens is I don't know about OnlyFans, but those porn sites, because they got me before. And what you do, you put your credit card in. You put your credit card in, because like, bro, because I came up in a generation where you had to still go to stores. When the internet was a thing, and this is dial-up days, all right. So it was like, hey man, y'all got the goods. This stuff looks like it's fire. All right. I'll pay the $9.99 or whatever right now. All right. So I paid that. What I didn't know is that I was paying for an recurring charge, like a recurring thing. and I was getting billed like all the time for it, and I
Yes,
didn't even know it.
but what she would do, what she said was there would be several charges.
No.
So either you don't know, so either you're not checking your account for several
Right.
months at a time
Right.
because you've been hit with the recurring charge like 10 times.
Yeah.
So who doesn't check their account for that long? No one does that.
Yeah.
So you're knowingly getting charged. You're just trying to somehow plead with the credit union to say that it was a fraudulent charge to get your money back. Never. The point is though, the point is that she talked to me. She used to tell me whenever we would talk about our jobs. She still does it. We'll have these conversations, and she's like, "Oh man, this dude came in today talking about." He got a bunch of charges that aren't real. And I looked them up and it's like Onlyfans or some other porn site. And she says it happens with enough regularity that this is a thing. The prevalence of it is very high. And so if I know just one person who works in a financial institution who encounters this on a regular basis, you can only imagine how often it's actually taking place. And so it stands to wonder, like, what are we dealing with here? And like I said, we talked, off camera one time, you talked to me about how, all of those ejaculations, you lose your essence. He was kind of having an offhand colloquial conversation, but how much of your essence are you losing, or rather wasting, because you're spending all your time wasting it on OnlyFans subscriptions? Like, bro, get off this stuff. And the thing about it is these women don't give a shit about you. They don't know who you are. They're going to placate to you by calling your name because they see you pop up because you just super chatted them or gave them a donation. But they don't they don't know you, bro. They don't give a shit about you.
But she knows my screen name.
But if these interactions aren't leading to you being able to get into a room with this chick face to face and actually do this in person, you are going, like, you're setting yourself up for lifelong relational failure. That's how I see it. And this is only becoming more and more normal and more prevalent. More and more of these guys are doing it, and it's not okay. I'm sorry, but it's not okay. It's like if women, Billie Eilish can have her brain wrecked, but Billie Eilish will still go to a bar or a club or a bowling alley or an arcade, and there will be guys who try to hit on her, who try to holler at her, who will try to approach her. You as a man, when you numb yourself into inactivity because you become so used to getting your rocks off because you're on OnlyFans and Pornhub and all of this other stuff, when you go to the bar or the arcade or the bowling alley or any of these other places, you're not doing anything. You're not approaching these women. You're not trying to get their numbers. You're not trying to do anything. You are numbing yourself into sexual inactivity. And when I use the word sexual, I mean it in the physical traditional sense of actually having sex. You're numbing yourself into inactivity. And that's not good for people. It's not good for you as a man. And it's not good for her either, because the more and more that this takes place, the more and more that we're looking at a situation in which these women have no other option but to try and get the attention of a guy who already has 9, 10 other relationships, because the small percentage of men have all the options because all of these other guys aren't even trying to do anything.
No,
so, you got one guy who you're never going to get fidelity in relationships at this point, because what incentive does a guy who still seeks actual physical contact, what incentive does that guy have to be faithful or committed in a monogamous sense to one woman when he knows that he has 5 and 6 and 7 other options, because these women out of necessity are all trying to pine for his attention? So, these are some of the ramifications of this stuff. And I don't think on a large enough scale, we as people are considering these things. We don't realize what the consequences of adopting these types of lifestyles are going to have until it's too late. And we never consider the consequences. Social media has, how many car accidents today are at such a high clip because you have so many people who are driving distracted. You're on your phone and you're texting and you're on social media while you're driving. You're not even looking at the road. It's no wonder why you're getting into an accident. You think 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when they were coming up with Instagram and Facebook and all of this stuff, that they thought about that? Of course not. They thought they were doing a great thing for the world. Hey, let's create social media so that everybody can connect. But now you got people out here distracted driving and killing themselves. That's an unintended consequence. What's an unintended consequence of what we got going on with the proliferation of adult content and all of this normalized porn stuff is lack of relationships, lack of marriages, lack of children being born, lack of functional relational situations. This is an unintended consequences. And we gonna rue the day when we realize in the future that this shit is going too far, it's gonna be too late. Because what you gonna do? You can't get into a time machine and reverse this. So as long as we keep sitting around saying, oh man, the metaverse, great. Oh yeah, I'll put on an Oculus and pretend that I'm, riding a horse instead of actually learning how to ride a horse. I'll do all of this stuff. Technology's great. Yeah, cool. Technology's wonderful. Instagram, yeah. Let me make these superficial relationships that aren't even real because I live my life through technology. The more that we continue to do this, the worse off we're going to be.
Yep.
And you know what I'm saying? Like I said, when it comes, you can call me a stick in the mud. You got all of these hyper liberals who love everything new and progressive. Okay, you just wait, because this stuff is going to affect you at some point, whether it's your own kids who aren't going to produce grandchildren for you because they're caught up on OnlyFans and all of this stuff, but you want grandchildren. You loved everything new and progressive. You root for all of this stuff. What's the problem now? Your own kid doesn't want to give you grandchildren because they're not even interested in having sex for real. Now, do you think it's a good thing? Okay, but we keep saying we want all of this stuff until we don't want it no more. And so at a certain point, when do we catch it before it becomes too much of an issue or too much of an obstacle or hurdle to overcome? And you know what I'm saying? It might sound like I'm thinking too much into it, but personally, I don't think so. I don't think that I'm overblowing this. I think that this is really going on. This is really happening. And it takes a man impregnating a woman in order for kids to be born. And the less men who are doing this is simple math. The less kids are going to be born. The less sex is going to be had. It's just it's a simple calculus. And we're not going to need a Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet to wipe out half the population because we're just going to end up doing it to ourselves.
Yeah, we're doing it to ourselves.
Yeah. And those are just some of the takeaways that I had from her comments. Like I said, at least for her sake, she's a woman, so she still stands a chance. But a guy who is in the equivalent situation to her, he's as good as gone. That guy is dead, unless he can find a way to come up out of it. So, these things just frighten me, bro. And I don't see an end in sight, which is the worst part about it. And I don't know what it's going to take for us to sort of reverse field on some of this stuff and just kind of pump the brakes a little bit. Like, hey man, this isn't okay. I should not be working hard and giving so much of my hard-earned money to OnlyFans subscriptions. Like, why do I have 5 OnlyFans subscriptions? Why? Why am I doing this? Not enough of us as men are saying this. We're just falling into the trap. We're plugging ourselves into the matrix.
Yeah, and I'll say this. So right now, dating apps are the norm for people. People use them as for whatever. I guess hooking up. I only use it to hook up. I don't know why other people use it.
Yeah.
And so, I've heard people have their success stories of them meeting.
Those are rare. Those are the exceptions. That's not the rule. Get out of here.
Right.
That's
and
not
so,
the rule.
To me, the only people I've encountered were people trying to hook up. So,
or people who have mental issues.
Or people who have mental issues, or both.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've witnessed on online dating apps. And I remember the stigma that was out there when they first came about. It was kind of shameful, actually, to be using those things. And then eventually Tinder became such a meme that it became normalized and cool.
Yeah.
And so then once that became a thing, it was just like, all right, well, what's the next dating app or whatever? And people still use Tinder, and people just talk swipe left, swipe right. Like, that's just regular lifestyle.
Doing it mechanically. Yeah. It's a mechanical action. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a thing. People are doing that, and that's a reality for people. But to me, even that is that's normalizing something that's not normal.
Yeah.
And I'm not okay with that. And that's just what we're getting at with this day and age of people not being able to be social, have to have online personas, and catfishing.
Mm-hmm.
Like these are real dynamics. There's real people out there who are listen. There's moments when I was first getting started, like Black Planet or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Black Planet chat rooms going crazy in there. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like 12, 13 years old, maybe even 11. And I'm in there. I'm trying to have conversations with women, but they're not going to talk to. I'm doing asex location, ASL, man, ASL, and they like, so I'm 17, I'm 19, I'm 20, I'm this, and I'm legit still. And so I was like, well, this is not going to work. So I had to lie about my age.
Yeah.
So I had to lie about my age just so I can get some play online.
Mm-hmm.
When I started doing that and I started to get the play, there was this thing in me that was like error.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. It just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like authentic. I didn't feel like me. What's going on, bro, is that there's so many people normalizing that kind of behavior that, like we were saying, there is no threshold anymore. It's just coming in unfiltered. So
Mm-hmm.
people going, so what? I made up a whole account that's not me. Big whoop. That's not a big whoop, bro. That's a personal problem.
Yeah.
You have a personal problem. That's not normal. You should address that. And people, you don't need a psychologist. You do need psychologists. Like honestly, people should go to the psychologist like they go to the dentist, like they go to
Yeah.
their doctor.
Yeah. People need therapy a lot. Yeah.
People
Yeah.
need therapy,
Yeah.
right? And so, but for the people that don't go to therapy, which is a lot, there's still ways where you can self-correct yourself by having some reflective moments. The reason why I can speak on these things is I've went through moments in my life where I'm introduced to certain concepts that could throw me left. As
Mm-hmm.
soon as I felt my body going left, like, what is this? This don't feel right. I just dropped it.
Yeah.
Then I watched the people continue to do whatever I was doing. And I
Yeah.
said, thank God I dropped it. No
Yeah.
wonder I dropped it. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And so for these people who aren't opposed to catfishing, I'll just make up a whole account, you know. Oh no, I'll just lie on my profile up and down just
Mm-hmm.
so I can get some pussy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And just it's just like, nah, man, why do you have to, first of all, you have to lie about everything? You have to lie about everything just to get some vagina?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
That's the opposite of being a man,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. And
Yeah.
so even for guys out here, oh yeah, I use this, I use that. It's like, bro, hey, listen, man. There's nothing like going out there and getting your own kill.
Yeah.
So, ethically, of course,
Yes.
going out there and setting up shop and knocking one down. And like, yeah, I saw a woman that I wanted. I went and talked to her. I got her number. I called her. Yeah. And we had a normal exchange. She'll be so grateful. Wow, a normal exchange. Because it's becoming rare now.
Yeah.
This is not a DM slide.
Yeah.
I remember when sliding in DMs was a thing. Like
Man.
when that phrase became a thing, where oh you sliding in, that was shameful back then. Wow, why you got to do it like that? You trying to shoot your shot online through Instagram?
Through an app. Yeah. Through Instagram. Through
Through
social
Instagram
media. Yeah.
messages? Back then that was seen as whatever. Now that's the norm. Oh yeah, I was sliding in her DM. Yeah, she slid in mine. She slid in yours, bro? Then she's a predator then, right? Because only a predator woman will slide in your DM and be aggressive with you like that. So my whole thing is that there's been so much stuff that got normalized, bro. That I mean, we're on version 2 of something that shouldn't have been normalized.
Yeah.
We're on version 3 on some of those things. We're on 4.0 on some. And this is like, oh man, I remember when that first got introduced when I was in high school. I said no back then. I'm saying no now. Look at what it's turned into now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And so, honestly, bro, porn is just an extension of that. This case here, I just feel as though, and just to tie to my point, because I hear yours 100% and I agree, and just to tie back into my point, I just feel as though this is a microcosm. I'm glad she was able to see it at 20, and I'm glad she's able to be the person she is and to reflect on her addiction at such a young age. So people her age who thought it was normal, who thought it was cool. Hey, I thought BDSM was cool. It's not.
It's, yeah, it's not.
You're watching the wrong stuff, bro.
Yeah,
Oh man, come
yeah.
on, man. You just nah, bro. If you need that kind of stimulation, I don't know what you want right now.
Hmm.
Because when you have a regular wife at the house, y'all not doing that, bro.
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm saying? The woman that wants to get her, put your foot on her head while y'all doing something, that's not. Uh, if that's your
Yeah,
wife, bro, she's somebody else's girlfriend.
yeah,
Just say
yeah,
it like that.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. It's crazy, man. It's just like I said, I just look into the future and I just see what the consequences of this
Hmm.
is moving forward, and that's just what frightens me the most. Um, we all got our problems. I know when we get on some of these videos and we talk about how dysfunctional relationships are, we say women do this and that's messed up, and men do this and that's messed up. But at the end of the day, it's like whomever, whatever we're gonna cite in terms of why the situation is what it is, we're not doing an adequate job of having that reflective moment, gaining the self awareness necessary to take a step back and say, how am I contributing to this dysfunctionality and what can I do? What role can I play? How can I do my part to sort of dial this back a little bit? So we all messed up here. But this right here, this stuff to me is the biggest of all the problems. Um, because it's just like human beings are social. We're social creatures by nature, social in the traditional sense of face-to-face interpersonal communication. So
Yes,
I'm
yes,
not trying to hear all of this social media has made the human race more impersonal and antisocial, and it's
yes.
created this environment where people only know how to communicate in within these respective prisms, and that's not healthy for actual communication. And when you mix sexual deviancy, porn, and all of that into it, you're throwing all of this stuff into a pot, and it's leading to, as I said, what eventually I believe is going to become voluntary infertility.
Mhm. And
Um,
and I would say it's turning the people the clinical version of antisocial, not the colloquial version of it
yeah, the
either.
version where you need help, like yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
clinical version of it.
yeah. People, man, I took one semester of FAMU. I was in a journalism school, and I'll never forget this, man. One of the teachers that I had, her name was Dr. Valerie White, and we were doing one of these journalism assignments, and she was talking about dysfunctionality mentally, and she was like, man, I don't think people realize how many people are walking the streets in normal society that need mental help,
Yes.
that need therapy. People need help to work through a lot of this stuff. There is
Yes.
a lot of mental illness is a real thing,
Yes.
um, and it sucks because as a man trying to navigate this, your own mental illness does not help the situation. You're
Mhm.
exacerbating all of the challenges that you already have in front of you. You're making the problem worse for yourself. Um, it's unfortunate, man. I think
Mhm.
the consequences of this for men are more dire than they are for women, but everyone has consequences to be had when it comes to this kind of stuff. And I can only hope that people like Billie Eilish can serve as an example for someone or some people out there who can say, maybe this ain't all right.
Yeah.
That's really all I can do. That's really all I can hope. And just have my own kids and just, I don't give a damn. I'm going to be that. I'm going to have parental locks on everything. Like, you're not watching. No, you're not watching this stuff. It's going to be parental locks. It's going to be a G14 classified CIA password that you ain't going to be able to find. You're not going to be unlocking porn on the TV. Your phone is going to be blocked. I don't give a damn. Yes, I'm going to be a parent who controls that. And I don't give a shit what any of these liberals have to say about it. Like, I'm going to control these aspects of my kids' life so that they don't grow up screwed up. Period. It's gonna be all day. I'm gonna control the phone. It's all kinds of ways. Like you can get your kid a phone, but block access to certain things and check their activity to see what they're doing. Yeah, I'm gonna be watching all of that. Because if I don't, I'm gonna raise a son who's watching Pornhub and on OnlyFans at 10 years old. And I'm just not gonna. I just don't. Yeah, that's just not for me. And I'm not going to raise my household that way. And I have the right to do that because it's my household, not yours. So, get off my lawn. But we'll go ahead and end the stream on that note, man. Good luck to all of the people out there who are trying to traverse this whole relationship issue because you're dealing with problems that are bigger than yourself, whether you realize it or not. If this video can serve as anything that can help you, then it was we more than did our job on this stream for the night. But either way, man, you can catch the channel. Full content library is available on consciousapproach.com. You can also follow Conscious Approach on the Instagram page at ConApproach, ConApproach. You can find me on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS, as well as on Facebook at Javis Ogden, JVISOGDEN, and also on Twitter at Javis Ogden as well. Follow all of the channels to stay up to date on content that we continue to drop. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please hit the share button, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. I appreciate it. It's free, doesn't cost you anything to hit that like button, so I appreciate that. If you're watching it on Facebook, once we upload the video to Facebook, hit the share button, hit the like button. Certainly appreciate that as well. We're trying to troubleshoot a couple things when it comes to the technical aspects of the stream. So if the audio blipped out when we played the Billie Eilish portion, I'm going to have a link to that in the description box so that you can watch it there. The clip that we played is beginning at the 1 minute 45 second mark to the 3 minute mark. So from 1 minute 45 seconds to 3 minutes. Listen to that. It'll give you some context for the clip that we played when she talked about what she talked about on the Howard Stern show before we went into that particular portion of the stream. So that's just an FYI. But until then, man, I'm JVWins. Keep it locked, man, and I appreciate you supporting logical content.
Yes, sir. And the name is Dogon, SS. All right, Dogon, not doggone. All right, it's Dogon. Right? And you can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS. All right, also here on YouTube at Dogon SS. All right, just go ahead and hit the subscription button. All right, new videos will be on the way. All right, 2022 is going to be a movie. All right, and your boy JVWins and Dogon SS will be starring in it. All right, so just go ahead and subscribe to both channels. And remember, keep it chill, keep it player. And as far as the reflection on today's content, I think you guys heard at least my angle. Try your best. And that's what any type of entertainment, quote unquote, I'm going to put air quotes on entertainment. Because any type of entertainment you watch, all right, it is shaping and molding you in some capacity. So if you're going to choose to watch something that you either know you shouldn't be watching or listen to some music that you go, I should be listening to something more motivational outside of this or what have you, that's cool. If you're going to listen to it, have a filter with you.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And filter the stuff out. You can do that. All right. Take the good aspects of it, drop the bad. All right. Yeah. I'll be out here gathering techniques when I'm watching some of that stuff, and my old lady loves it. All right. So there's benefits of it. Yeah, there's benefits of it if used in a way that makes some sense.
Yes.
Right? So,
yes.
If you're going to be dabbling, do it responsibly.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. Just be responsible with it. And we just don't have enough people who are responsible. That's the problem. And responsibility, like judgment and all of these things, those are basic fundamental skills. And these young people, these kids, they're growing up and they're not developing those basic skills. And so when you don't have the fundamentals, where are you at? You know what I'm saying? Like, you related to sports. You can have all of the raw athletic abilities, but if you can't dribble with your left hand, if you can't finish left or right, if you don't know how to have the right form with the jumper, follow through, Make sure that you follow through. If you don't have those fundamental skills locked down, you're not going to be a great player. You'll just be somebody who had potential, but you fizzled out. And so it's those fundamentals that we're lacking, man. Use this stuff in moderation, be responsible about it, and have the filter. But you should not be replacing making contact with women in person with these various outlets. You should not be doing that. If you're a man, you should not be doing this. And if you know that you're doing this, you need to stop. Get some therapy, figure out how you can overcome whatever mental affliction that you got going on with this kind of stuff. Get out of there. If you ask me, like I've always said, you don't need to be DMing women on social media at all. I'll stick to my ground. I'm gonna stand my ground on that. I believe that. Don't DM, liking these chicks, following them on social media. Stop trying to text them or message them on these apps. Get off OnlyFans. I believe you shouldn't be. I don't believe any man should be on OnlyFans, period. But I know that that'll never happen. I know that that's unreasonable. People gonna use it. But in my opinion, I don't think men should be on it at all. I wish that it could be abolished, but it is what it is. But keep it G, keep it trill, keep it neutral. Be responsible. Keep support logical content. And until next time, JB Wins Dogon SS. We signing off. We'll see you on the next stream.